everyone. I hope you're doing well and enjoying Unleashed. I'm Chris Lee, and I head up our value engineering organization here at Xactly. My team is comprised of domain experts with extensive product, pre-sales, professional services, and transformation strategy experience. And we're tasked with helping organizations plan for and execute their revenue transformations to drive long-term change to their business performance. I couldn't be more excited to be here with you today and to officially kick off our transformation track. The transformation track is comprised of 5 interrelated sessions, and it's intended to help you approach revenue optimization strategically and to cover off on best practices you can apply to ensure your transformation initiatives are successful. In this initial session, we'll review why, and more importantly, how organizations should think about transforming the revenue organization. So in terms of an agenda, we'll cover off on 4 topics. First off, we'll review the challenges organizations are facing related to their revenue functions. From there, we'll talk through how best-in-class organizations are approaching revenue optimization. We'll follow that up with a discussion about digital transformation and how it helps accelerate desirable revenue outcomes. And finally, we'll wrap up by reviewing a process organizations can follow to ensure they're managing their revenue transformation effectively. All right, so let's get into it. So the pandemic has reminded us that volatile markets can have a severe impact on businesses that aren't built to last. And because revenue is the fuel for an organization, it's the logical place to start when assessing the strength of an organization's ability to stand the test of time. However, when we speak to organizations about the robustness of their revenue engine, we find there are typically 3 core issues that are preventing them from executing effectively. First off, most businesses do not believe their go-to-market planning functions are integrated or agile enough to allow them to quickly course correct their revenue strategy as needed. Research has shown that only 7% of organizations believe their existing revenue operating models can adapt to changing market conditions. This inability to stay ahead of the market results in organizations constantly executing in catch-up mode. Along with that, an organization will typically reinvest its profits into the business to drive innovation and market expansion. Yet only 15% of organizations have been able to grow both revenue and profit over an extended period of time. So this, of course, is worrying because the absence of profits prevents an organization from investing in its future, which obviously doesn't put the organization in a good position for long-term success. And finally, in order for organizations to focus on securing and ultimately growing revenue, they need to believe they can execute on their immediate short-term targets. Unfortunately, only 6% of revenue leaders are confident about their team's ability to meet or exceed their revenue goals. And this is a huge concern because businesses that don't trust the performance of their growth engine find themselves spending the majority of their time analyzing and dissecting their current pipeline at the expense of capitalizing on future growth opportunities. We find businesses that acknowledge and address these fundamental issues are the businesses that are thriving in this new never normal we all live in and will continue to live in moving forward. Okay, so what are some ways organizations can bolster their revenue functions to better address the needs of the never normal? Generally speaking, there are 3 characteristics of revenue that, when combined, allow organizations to grow in virtually any economic climate or market dynamic. The first characteristic is resilient revenue. Organizations that have implemented an integrated agile go-to-market planning framework are able to quickly adapt to market volatility and competitive pressures. The benefit of instituting this type of revenue operating model is huge. Organizations exhibiting this resilient revenue characteristic are able to grow 37% faster than organizations that cannot iterate on their revenue strategy with speed. The second characteristic is profitable revenue. So organizations that operate efficiently by maximizing the effectiveness of their go-to-market teams allow themselves to be forward-looking by investing in innovation and expansion. And this is critical to establishing long-term growth potential. Profitable revenue organizations realize a 15% increase in margins versus those organizations that are focused on short-term growth and growth at all costs. And then the third characteristic is predictable revenue. Businesses that remove themselves from intuition bias and relying on their gut feeling operate with a much higher degree of confidence that they will meet or even exceed their revenue targets. And this affords them the luxury of pursuing future revenue growth opportunities because they have a dependable understanding of the financial resources that will be available to them at any one point in time. Revenue organizations operating predictably commonly outperform their revenue targets by up to 10% by focusing on the highest value revenue opportunities in real time. The great thing about these characteristics is that they are not mutually exclusive to one another. And when combined, they allow revenue organizations to truly operate in a sustainable way by balancing the short-term as well as the long-term needs of the business. All right, now that we've covered the characteristics of sustainable revenue, let's review how organizations are aligning their teams to achieve these revenue outcomes. So as more and more organizations transition to a recurring revenue business model, where revenue is recognized over the life of the customer, it is becoming increasingly common for front and back office functions to align more closely on specific revenue management activities. It's also no longer sufficient for the revenue pursuit team, traditionally limited to the sales org, to focus exclusively on securing the initial revenue contract. Instead, now all of the teams in a customer-facing capacity, such as marketing, sales, and also customer success, need to come together and collectively serve as the revenue pursuit team to ensure that revenue is properly managed throughout the customer relationship. As well, to ensure there is a unified strategy for managing all of the revenue streams, the typical revenue support teams, so we're talking operations, finance, and compensation, are now playing a more active role in both securing and the overall governance of revenue. The coming together of the revenue pursuit and revenue support teams is allowing organizations to bring new customers' experiences to market faster, and in a way that does not put economic strain on the business. This is ultimately increasing the overall agility of the organization and driving resilient revenue business models. The result of unifying the revenue operating model with its associated data and processes is also increasing operational efficiency, which of course then translates into a more profitable revenue model. And then finally, by introducing behavioral data-driven solutions to support these unified business processes, organizations can combine machine intelligence with human judgment to optimize their customer engagement and uncover future market opportunities. These organizational capabilities are helping to cultivate a predictable revenue model. Now let's talk about how best-in-class organizations approach the main business processes that comprise the revenue management lifecycle that supports sustainable revenue. Before we get into the functional details, let's first review the attributes of highly mature business processes. First off, they're automated and highly integrated with upstream and downstream systems and processes. This allows organizations to rally behind a single source of truth and to maximize their operating efficiency. The stakeholders supporting the revenue processes operate in a highly collaborative manner. This ensures all of the relevant stakeholders clearly understand the unique role they play in supporting the organization's overall objectives. Now, leveraging data to drive actionable insights is also core to these processes. This allows organizations to eliminate intuition bias and operating based on unsubstantiated assumptions. Instead, they leverage advanced intelligence to support real-time decision-making. And finally, these processes are continuously reevaluated and adjusted as needed. This ensures the organization is optimizing the way it is deploying its resources based on current and future market dynamics. Okay, so now in terms of the high-level life cycle, there are two types of revenue management processes organizations focus on. There are the revenue intelligence processes, and these deliver real-time intelligent insights to the revenue pursuit teams to inform them how they should engage with prospects and customers to maximize revenue by supporting the integration with adjacent processes, as well as through strategic planning and forecasting of the revenue growth strategy. And then there are the revenue performance processes that allow the revenue support teams to quickly operationalize the continuously refined revenue plans and manage the associated performance and incentives of the revenue pursuit teams, and ultimately to ensure the organization is meeting and even exceeding its revenue goals. Pulling all these capabilities together is what allows best-in-class revenue organizations to maximize their revenue potential, and we refer to this framework as revenue optimization. In this state, the revenue pursuit and revenue support teams have been harmonized thoroughly, and the revenue intelligence and revenue performance business processes are highly automated, collaborative, actionable, and continuous. This allows an organization to uncover their maximum revenue opportunity, predictably secure revenue across any channel, and ensure that the revenue is highly profitable over the duration of the customer relationship. And this is all made possible because these forward-looking organizations have an intelligent revenue platform in place to support the end-to-end revenue lifecycle at scale. So by optimizing the right people to manage the right processes with the right technology, organizations can maximize sustainable revenue growth across all of their revenue streams. But there are clearly a lot of moving parts to this framework, and navigating to this ideal future state in a highly structured way is where transformation comes into play. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about how organizations can accelerate digital transformation to drive these desirable revenue outcomes. Now, in a perfect world, organizations would be able to identify opportunities for improvement in their business and simply click a button to deploy some technology and have it solve all of their problems on its own. Unfortunately, as we all know, the world we live in is far from perfect. Yet many organizations still make the mistake of believing technology on its own is the answer to their problems. So it should come as no surprise then that 70% of digital transformation initiatives fall short on delivering on their objectives. Digital transformation is all about up-leveling the capabilities of an organization's people to then optimize its business processes and ultimately drive improved business performance. And the key is to leverage technology as the vehicle to support those intended people, process, and performance improvements. And high-performing organizations avoid these transformation issues by planning effectively. The result of effective transformation planning is huge. Organizations are 5 times more likely to exceed the transformation objectives by adhering to a best practices-based planning framework. Along with effective planning, achieving long-term revenue optimization also requires discipline, time, and ongoing buy-in from the organization. And we'll talk about how an organization should manage their transformation in a moment. So to help rationalize the upfront need and ongoing benefit of a revenue transformation, intelligent organizations will leverage a well-defined maturity model to assess their current capabilities and identify objective areas of improvement to put themselves in a position to up-level their business performance. As discussed previously, it's important for organizations to think about their capabilities from the perspective of their people, their processes, and the technology that they employ to drive business outcomes. So the maturity model for revenue optimization consists of 4 levels that span the continuum of entirely manual to highly optimized capabilities. And in a subsequent session, we will dive into the details of the maturity model from the perspective of revenue optimization and predictable revenue in particular to outline the capabilities an organization should consider when making the decision to drive improved revenue outcomes. So when organizations have made the provisional decision to move forward with a revenue transformation, it's critical that they engage in a structured planning process to maximize their probability of success. This process will not only identify the improvement areas that will yield the largest benefit to the organization, it will also uncover potential barriers to unlocking new organizational capabilities. So understanding where to focus, and more importantly, where not to focus, is typically what allows organizations to avoid executing a transformation that just takes too long to deliver benefits back to the business. A well-designed transformation planning process should help define an organization's transformation strategy, the business case for why they would engage in the transformation to begin with, and ultimately a robust roadmap that details the path from the current state to the optimized future state. In a subsequent session, we will cover off on the transformation planning process in significant detail to identify all of the information that should be gathered and ultimately synthesized to make data-informed decisions about the revenue transformation. So as previously mentioned, a revenue transformation that returns long-term value to an organization requires an ongoing commitment from the key executive stakeholders to ensure its success. Realizing the full benefit of a revenue transformation takes time, and best-in-class organizations acknowledge this and approach their transformation in a way that allows them to deliver incremental benefits to the business over the duration of the transformation lifecycle. And so to facilitate that, these organizations will employ an agile methodology to their transformation, such that they're effectively executing on multiple highly integrated micro transformations. This ensures they can deliver benefits to the business quickly and efficiently without losing sight of the broader goals and expectations of the transformation. And so this approach allows organizations to adjust their transformation in real time based on the benefits that are actually being realized and ultimately ensures they maintain the right level of stakeholder engagement to see the full transformation through to its completion. Again, in a subsequent session, we'll cover off on value management in more detail to identify best practices and frameworks that should be employed to ensure an expansive revenue optimization transformation is resulting in the desired business outcomes throughout its lifecycle. So in summary, we've covered four key topics. We reviewed the challenges organizations are facing related to their revenue functions. We talked through how best-in-class organizations are approaching revenue optimization and how they think about their stakeholders and business processes. We then discussed digital transformation and how it helps accelerate desirable revenue outcomes. And remember, planning for how to leverage technology is critical. And finally, we went through a process organizations can follow to ensure they're managing their revenue transformation effectively. Transformation is a journey, and so organizations really need to find ways to accelerate time to value for the business. I hope you found this session interesting and informative. And just a reminder, there are additional sessions that will dive into a lot of the high-level concepts we covered, so I highly encourage you to join these sessions. Enjoy the rest of Unleashed, and thanks again for your time.